Hey there, welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for September 17th. This week is about inspired action because this week we have a lot of energy that's around taking action from a place of inspiration, from a place of passion, and what may feel like from a place that comes out of nowhere, unexpected. So as always, I am excited to share the astrology of this week with you, and then I have 3 tips to make it an amazing week. So first thing that's happening this week is we have Mars squaring Uranus. And so Mars, so if you watched last week, I mentioned that this energy was building. So it's exact on Tuesday this week. So Mars is about physical action, physical vitality. It's also related to how it is that you assert yourself and how it is that you say, hey, this is who I am, and my thoughts, feelings, and values are important in the world. That's all Mars kind of stuff. And then Uranus is the planet that symbolizes a sense of freedom, a sense of breaking something that is outdated, surprise events and changes, and something that happens very rapidly and instantaneously. Uranus is also related to that sense of spark intuition, that like lightning bolt idea. Uranus is interesting because it is a planet that is related to synchronicity and intuition, but that comes in kind of like a rapid way where you're like, whoa, I just had this cool idea. So what does that mean when these two come together? So this means that you may experience a rapid, sudden change in the way that you want to do things, doing Mars, or maybe the way that you assert yourself, Mars, or maybe it just feels like you really need to take physical action towards something or towards doing something in a very different way. I was thinking, reflecting on a few people who I've worked with who have this configuration. They have Mars square Uranus. It'll be in different signs, but they have that configuration as a part of who it is that they are, that they're living throughout their entire lives. And I noticed that these people have a quick sense of intuition. They get a vision and they see it and they act on it. And that doesn't mean that things are easy for them or that they don't question that. But I noticed that as a theme with the few people that I've worked with that have this signature, where they just have like this almost genius kind of eclectic, Uranus's eclectic kind of idea and vision. And then there's like this intensity to move towards it, this intensity to create it. So we all get a little piece of that this week. The other thing that's happening is we have the equinox that's happening on Saturday. It's exact at 6:55 p.m. Pacific time. So the equinox is when the sun moves into the sign of Libra at this time of year. In September. And so equinox, the root term, means equal because the day and the night are completely equal in length. And so we can look to embody that kind of energy in our lives. Where is that being expressed in your life? Where there is this sense of equanimity in your conscious mind, which is the sun and the day, and then your unconscious, which is the night, the dreamland, and the sense of intuition that you tap into that's always available to you. These two are kind of on an even level playing field. We can think of it that way with the equinox. So beautiful day to hold space for both of those parts of yourself this week. The last thing that's happening is Mercury will conjunct the sun. And so Mercury and the sun are together, same degree of the zodiac. And this happens on Thursday. Shortly after, over the weekend, Mercury is going to square Saturn. But Mercury is the symbol of thought process, mind, logic, how it is that we communicate in any matter, whether that is vocally, written word, even symbolically. And then the sun is the conscious awareness. So there's this merging happening where we have the ability to communicate very directly and I think very powerfully, especially because Mercury will immediately square Saturn That's not often looked at as a positive aspect, but I see it as where there's something that you have to communicate that is very important and it carries a lot of weight. And so I think that combined with the Mars-Uranus energy, there's something that you may really be inspired to communicate, something that's very important, an important decision. The other part of this is when Mercury conjuncts the sun at this point, it's kind of like a full moon phase in the Mercury cycle, in the synodic cycle. And so it may be helpful for you to reflect on when Mercury was retrograde most recently, what kinds of issues came up. How do you feel about those issues? That was July 23rd through August 18th. So just maybe reflect on what was the core of the things that happened, if anything happened at that time, are the things that you were rethinking when Mercury was retrograde. I have 3 tips for you. Tip number 1 is be open to say yes. And I say that because Mars, Uranus, there's something new that's opening. There's something new that you may feel like there's a sudden change that happens in your life or that you want to initiate. So be open to say yes. When we have aspects with Uranus, it helps to be open to change because change is happening typically, whether that is inner change about how you feel about something or out in the world. Be open to that. Have an open mind as much as you can. Tip number 2 is to trust. So even if the change is something that you experience as negative, trust the process. Because there's always a gift here. Uranus energy is very different than Saturn energy. Saturn energy is linked to where we need to put in a lot of effort and where things may not always work out because of limitations. Saturn is also related to disappointment. I think Saturn has a lot of beautiful gifts, but that kind of is always there. There's always a bit of sacrifice. But with Uranus, there's a newness there. There's a freshness. And so I would say trust that if something changes and it's disappointing, or if it feels like an ending, or if it feels like something that just is sad, that's a grievance, trust that something else is there for you. That is the message of Uranus. Tip number 3 is to connect with your options. And I say that because there are options there with the energy this week. So it's what is it that's happening for you? The whole combination of this is that there's a lot of possibility. There's a lot of fertility, so to speak, as far as options, because Mars Uranus is okay, what are we going toward? Not necessarily what are we ending. That may be an aspect of it, but I feel this sudden change towards something. The equinox with the sun moving into the sign of Libra, that is totally about initiating change. Libra is a cardinal sign, and so there's this movement forward. And then the Mercury and Sun conjunction, that is the full moon phase. So there's a lot of moving forward. What is it that you can lean into that's opening up for you this week? So to seal everything up, I will pull a tarot card for you. And so as always, I'm pulling this on the fly. I haven't pre-selected it. So you can think about if there's something that's on your mind, you can hold that in your heart, or you can just relax and connect to yourself. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. So I pulled the 7 of Swords. So this is an interesting card because it's about trying to get away with something. So you can see the guy, he's like trying to steal those swords, right? And he's stealing from these. So the imagery behind this card is typically said that this person is trying to get away with stealing something, and then because the tents are open, the camp, they're like aware of what's happening. So what comes to mind with this is, are you trying to take shortcuts with what's happening? And I think that's always a possible problematic tendency of Mars-Uranus. So let's talk about that. I think that Mars-Uranus, there can be this like sudden change, and sometimes it's more seductive to just like cut everything off entirely. But I feel like this card is saying, watch out for where you're trying to cut corners, and that may not be the most fulfilling action to take. Or watch out for where others are trying to take advantage of a situation that you're in. So like watch, I think integrity is really what comes up when I see this card, is watch out for your integrity, watch out for the integrity of those that are around you. And if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not. That doesn't mean that people are deceiving you, but that means like, you know when, like, you know in your gut when someone has your best interests at heart. You know in your gut when you are doing things that are in alignment with your values and your integrity. So I would keep that in mind this week because we pulled this card. So that is all for this week. If you want to connect with me more, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube under Neo-Feminine Astrology. What else did I want to tell you about? Oh yeah, if you want to follow the moon signs throughout the week, if you want to get my moon cheat sheet, you can sign up to get an email with that every single week on my website under Neo-Feminine Astrology. And if you want to find out more about how to work with me, you can find out that also on my website, neofeminineastrology.com. Until next week, I'm wishing you a wonderful week, happy equinox, and I'll talk to you soon. Namaste.